Welcome to National Pension Partners, where retirement planning meets peace of mind. Today, we're diving into the 412(e)(3 plan, also known as a fully insured pension plan. This isn't just any retirement plan. It's the gold standard for stability and guaranteed benefits. How does it work? Simple. It's funded exclusively by life insurance and annuity contracts. This means no market risks, no actuarial assumptions, just ironclad guarantees. Think of it like this. You're a small business owner who hates surprises. The 412(e)(3 plan gives you predictable, stable contributions every year. Your future benefits are backed by insurance contracts, so you know exactly what you're getting. No guesswork, no headaches. But there's more. These plans are designed to maximize your contributions and offer significant tax advantages. And with National Pension Partners, you're not just getting a plan, you're getting a team of experts, attorneys, CPAs, actuaries, all dedicated to making your retirement as secure as possible. We provide personalized consulting, ensuring that your plan is tailored to your specific needs. Best part? Initial consultations and proposals are absolutely free. $0, zero commitment. So if you want a retirement plan that's as reliable as your morning coffee, head over to nationalpensions.com. With the 412(e)(3 plan, your future is in safe hands. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling. Perfect for small business owners who like their finances as predictable as Monday mornings. Stable contributions, ironclad guarantees, and serious tax advantages. It's the trifecta of financial security. And with National Pension Partners, you get a team of brainiacs, attorneys, CPAs, actuaries, ensuring your retirement is as secure as Fort Knox. Oh, did we mention the free consultations? That's right. You get a personalized expert proposal with $0 down. So, if you want a retirement plan that's as reliable as your morning coffee, head over to nationalpensions.com. Because when it comes to your future, boring is the new exciting. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling. For more details, check out National Pension Partners at nationalpensions.com. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling.
A lot is going on in the world, and we're going to be reporting on it, telling you about it, and we'll see what folks have got to say when hopefully our panel comes and joins us as well. One of those things that is sometimes talked about was actually featured on a film that showed yesterday at the Hayti Heritage Center, which many of you that watch Pod TV know is a place that I work at, and all along those lines. So they showed the film Blind Faith, which dealt with the whole notion of Christian nationalism and all along those lines. And they brought up some interesting points that I had not thought about before and everything along those lines. So they definitely talked about something that I know is oftentimes talked about on this network, which is, of course, that infamous Project 25 and all along those lines. But they also talked about how theocracy may be what some people want and all along that kind of a way. And then they asked who would be in charge of the theocracy, because there are a number of different denominations and they all would have different rules. I mean, there's Presbyterians, there's Baptists, there's Methodists, there's all kinds of different folks in that space and along those lines. And one of the points that one of the panelists brought up, and I've invited them to come on the show at some point or another in another day or two, or maybe a week or two, is this notion that while we talk about it being a Christian nation, a lot of the things that we celebrate in that area weren't actually created till the 19th century, including God Bless America and some of the other things, and including In God We Trust, which I think was on the dollar, and some of the other things. But apparently they weren't put on there until the 19th century, as opposed to the like 1900s or something like that, as opposed to the 1700s or some of the early foundings and all along those lines, because as the panelists pointed out, a lot of those people were trying to escape religious persecution when they were leaving Europe and all in that space. So like I said, it was an interesting conversation. Other things that were going on there at that particular venue this weekend included a tap dance performance, and the kids that did some tapping even did some on some steps, and that is really impressive because that was just one of the routines. But if you can tap on some steps going up and down, I'm impressed already, and they did a good job in that. And then a friend of mine celebrated their 70th birthday as well. Now, in terms of the news, there was a lot of that going on as well. The death toll has reached 16 as dramatic flooding in Central Europe continues. So 10,000 have been asked to leave, and the floods have hit Český, Poland. So definitely, and there's been some people found dead in eastern Romania as rainstorm leaves hundreds stranded. So that's something going on with some very severe weather in Central Europe. And the strongest typhoon since 1949 hits Shanghai and knocks out power to some homes. So Typhoon Bebenka lashes Shanghai in the strongest storm since, as I said, 1949. And China has canceled flights and evacuates thousands. So it looks like they're being hit by some serious weather as well. And Putin has ordered the Russian army to expand by 180,000 soldiers to become 1.5 million strong. So Putin has ordered the Russian army to increase the troop size by 180,000. So definitely this is something else we're going on as the war, as Putin expands armed forces to 2.4 million after a deadly Kharkiv strike. And all along those lines is what one of the articles says. So it definitely looks like a lot of expansion is taking place, I guess, as he continues to try to invade and overpower Ukraine. But as Sasha says, that's just a lot more folks for the meat grinder and all along those lines. I think that's Sasha, or maybe that's Ivan that has that quote and everything like that. And at least 16 people were killed in Israeli airstrikes on Gaza, and the IAF has stricken Hamas command center embedded in a school in northern Gaza. So definitely that's something else that we're seeing as well. And it looks like a Masi Amini, a woman's social media post, is risking punishment that she put out there in Iran. Definitely, well, actually, it says woman goes without hijabs as Masi Amini's second death anniversary near. So she was actually somebody that got in some serious consequences for what that happened, but apparently some of the women in Iran are protesting that as well. So definitely that's something going on in that area and took place over the weekend and all along that line. I guess it may even be still going on as well. And Breton quits as France's EU commissioner and criticizes von der Leyen. So France's European commissioner resigns amid a row with von der Leyen. And definitely it looks like that's going on. And Macron has named France's top diplomat to replace Breton in that EU role. And this person's name is Stephanie Sergeni. So that dude will be replacing Thierry Breton as France's nominee for the European commissioner. And Germany angers European neighbors as this tightens migration along its borders as well. So definitely Germany reintroduces border checks to far-right praise as EU tensions mount. So it's not just the U.S. that is having dealings with the whole notion of immigration and border control and everything like that. And a French rape trial has been adjourned after Dominique Pellicot health issues were reported, and all along those lines. So definitely it looks like drugged and raped Giselle Pellicot has become France's symbol of the fight against sexual violence. So definitely that's something else that we're seeing in the news as well. And UK Prime Minister Starmer is pledging migration cooperation on an Italy trip. So Starmer is very interested in Italy's plan to offshore asylum applications in Albania, according to the article saying that that's what Melania said. So Starmer and Melania are holding talks on curbing migrant boats reaching UK and Italy. And the Houthis say they struck Israel with a new hypersonic ballistic missile. So definitely that's something going on. And Netanyahu is to expand his military operation in the northern front with Lebanon. Top general said pushing for ground incursion to create the South Lebanon buffer zone and all in that space. So definitely the wars are still going in that way space as well. So definitely it looks like a lot of things are taking place, including in the U.S., where apparently another assassination attempt was held. And I want to say the person was from Hawaii, but had North Carolina roots, maybe even roots to one of the HBCUs, and all along those lines. But it looks like Trump was the subject of an apparent assassination attempt yesterday at his Florida Golf Club, according to the FBI. And Ryan Ruth is the person in custody after that particular incident, and all along those lines. And there are calls mounting for more Trump security after this second attempt. And TikTok has 15 minutes to fight for its life. So apparently, TikTok's U.S. future hangs in the balance in the court. So a threatened U.S. ban against TikTok is unconstitutional, is what the platform is arguing. So definitely, this is something else going on in the news as well. And a Titan submersible hearing begins as questions linger over what went wrong. So apparently, there's some things going and questions around OceanGate and all along those lines. And storms are nearing the Carolinas, and they are threatening areas with up to 10 inches of rain possible. So definitely looks like there's a possible Helene warnings that are going on here in this area. So tropical storm conditions are hitting the Carolinas as Helene threatens to form, and all along those lines. So definitely see how this all goes on, and all in that space. And of course, folks are still talking about the debates and the swing states, and definitely Taylor Swift's endorsement and a number of other things in that space. And the FBI is examining threats targeting Haitians at a Springfield, Ohio college. And Dana Brass and J.D. Vance clash over baseless claims about the Haitian immigrants. So definitely that's something that folks have got in the news as well. And China has freed David Lin, an American pastor who was over there and everything in that line. So an American pastor held in a Chinese jail for nearly 2 decades is finally home. So there might be some thawing of relationships with what's going on in the U.S. and all along those lines. And a divided House GOP is struggling to avoid, once again, a government shutdown. So that's something else in the news as well. And last but not least, there was some of the sad news from an iconic family and all along those lines. So we just lost Tito Jackson, who was in recently. So Tito Jackson was a member of the Jackson 5 family. I actually had the pleasure of working with him about 6 years ago when he came and played with the B.B. King band and all along those lines. And that was as part of our Bull Durham Blues Festival. But yes, his sons have announced that he passed away at the age of 70. So definitely that is something that a lot of folks will be mourning his loss as well, because that was definitely an iconic family. And like I said, I did have the pleasure of working with him briefly back 6 years ago and all along those lines in that space. But I want to see if Rick's had any dealings with the legendary Tito Jackson and everything, since I just recently found this out.
Yeah, my hearing's not that good, and my wife told me about it, and I said, "Who's Seafood Jackson?" There is no Seafood Jackson, but I'm sorry for the Jackson family.
Yep, it's Tito Jackson, one of the lesser known members, but definitely was up there along with.
No, I mean, when I was writing jokes about the Jacksons, in the 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Tito was always the name you'd throw in at the end, and Tito.
And Tito, exactly. I'll bring in Dan Worthington and Shaquille. And I want to say that during that infamous incident with Michael Jackson and the fire and everything, that I want to say that Tito was involved with that as well. But I have to go back and double check my reporting on that. But I think that he was one of the people that might have even helped squash that fire, if I remember correctly, and everything. But definitely, Shaquille, any thoughts around the loss of Tito and all along those lines?
I'll just echo that. Condolences to the family. Obviously, it's a well-known family that's changed history. So it's a sad moment for them.
Yeah, definitely a sad moment for them as well. And Dan, what about you? Any thoughts around the loss of Tito Jackson and all along those lines?
No, condolences to the family. It's always sad to lose a family member, especially someone from a notable family, right?
Yep, definitely a person that was well known and all along those lines. One of the things that we've been talking about on this station and everything, and I definitely want to hear your thoughts, Dan, and all along these lines, is this notion of security and what's going on with security. And I did find out yesterday that there was another attempt on presidential candidate and former President Donald Trump in his own golf course. And like I said earlier, it seems that Ryan Roth is from Hawaii, or living in Hawaii currently. Well, actually, I guess he's living
from North Carolina.
But I was going
He's
to say,
from North Carolina, then he moved to Hawaii.
From North Carolina.
Yeah, he's homegrown. You guys could take responsibility for him.
I imagine
jokingly
he's
said
going to be.
that I called a friend of mine that went to A&T that apparently he, even though some people would say he was a DEI hire as well because it is a white gentleman, but he did go to that HBCU. So I was actually teasing a friend of mine last night saying, this is not the kind of claim to fame that you want from your alma mater and all along those lines.
No,
that is the university that he attended.
No, imagine he's going to be spending the rest of his life in a penitentiary.
Oh, yeah. I imagine that as well and everything. But the thing I was curious and I wanted to hear from both you, Dan, and Shaquille, is there's this notion that there has not been enough security. And I know that it's been handed over from different departments. I think that used to be under the Treasury Department. And then after 9/11, it went, or sometime recently, to Homeland Security or Homeland and everything like that. And now I guess there's some people that wanted to go back to the Treasury Department. And there is this notion that even though he is not a sitting president, that they need to expand his coverage as well, particularly with this second attempt. And I do know that I've heard that I think they're asking.
But Mark, he's presently leading candidate for president of the United States. He should have Secret Service protection equivalent to that of the president. Same with Kamala. But this is what you expect from the Biden administration, right? I mean, the calls to have him harmed and all this other stuff from the Democrats, by all means to stop. I know, I see your hands, buddy. Just wait. Just at all means to stop Trump from being president, to keep him from, because he's such a threat to democracy. The biggest threat to democracy I see are the Democrats and all the things they're doing with respect to Kamala Harris and all that. I mean, she didn't get a single vote, right? She didn't get a single vote, and she was the last place replacement, and she's not addressing any of the key issues, and she just sort of okay. So you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. I mean, it's the way it works, right? And so I think that we need real leadership now, and the problem is Trump provides real leadership. The problem is that he's also like a lightning rod. Democrats would be dancing in the streets if Trump were assassinated. That's the truth of it, because the Democrats are corrupt and they'll do anything to win this election. We know that because that's what they did in 2020.
All right, so neither potential assassin was a Democrat, and
You're so full of it.
No, they've actually come out of it. Well, I know the first one they said that they voted for Republicans and all along those lines.
They were crazy people. They were, all right, mostly crazy people. I thought the Secret Service did a good job this time. They were walking the golf course a hole ahead of Trump, and they spotted a gun barrel poking out of the bushes. So, I mean, they did their job there.
They did, but the guy shouldn't have got close.
Well, he got no. I mean, 400 yards. I guess if you're a crack shot, you can make a shot from 400 yards, but he got a quarter mile away from Trump before.
Yeah, but AK-47 was a poor weapon of choice for that distance. But I guess he was coming that way. My question is, how did he know he was there? All that. Right?
No Democrat. I mean, maybe some lunatic Democrat somewhere. The vast majority of Democrats don't want harm to befall anybody politically, and particularly Trump, because if Trump were forced to withdraw from the election, the Republicans might put up somebody more elected.
Rick, let me, sorry, before I respond to that, Mark, about the Secret Service being under the Treasury, I think just for the audience and for everyone just to remember that one of the major roles of the Secret Service is dealing with things like counterfeit currency and that sort of stuff. And so, and that division of the Secret Service actually still operates, and they operate around the world, keeping an eye on the currencies that people still have faith in it. So that's I think a completely separate role to protective services. Rick, I'm not suggesting. I don't know what Dan's suggesting. I wouldn't suggest that the majority of Democrats are out there hoping and praying that Donald Trump's, life comes to an end. But I will say that the media has blown this so far out of proportion. You say he's literally Hitler. His supporters are literally Nazis. Democracy will be over. The United States will be over if he wins. We heard that before the 2016 election. We heard that in 2020. We're hearing it again now. They should win at any way possible. Maxine Waters has this big. Goes to a rally and says, if you see somebody from this administration in a restaurant or a gas station, you should cause a scene and tell them that they're not welcome. That's where a lot of this hostility is coming from. Very rarely was there any kind of call for, look, people are going to have political differences. Then you had Madonna saying that she's thought a lot about blowing up the White House. You had, you've got celebrities all over the place. Kathy Griffiths holding up a fake decapitated head of Donald Trump.
That happened.
You've seen our Pirates of the Caribbean saying that he's. When was the last time that an actor took out a president? Right, we've seen people say things like, "Where's Lee Harvey Oswald when you need him?" I mean, I think it's completely fictitious and dishonest to suggest that Democrats have not played a significant part in riling up violence and hostility towards Republicans in your country.
But you're reading different social media than I am.
And I definitely wanted to hear from Jacoby as well. Part of what was covered in that, and y'all probably didn't hear the beginning of the monologue that y'all hadn't joined and everything, but that was part of what was discussed on the movie that can be seen in.
Your monologue is about Christian nationalists, as if they're somehow the negative aspect.
The Christian nationalism, part of that argument that was around the Tea Party, and even Trump has been some things that can be seen as being volatile as well. So I'm not.
Why isn't there a movie being made about the woke anti-nationalists? Oh, that's right, because that kind of movie could never be made. Right? It's so biased. It is so biased. Your media is so biased one way, and they can't think of anything nice or positive to say about the United States. And the effect is that people are going to act in crazy ways, somewhat as a result of hearing wall-to-wall coverage about how terrible Donald Trump is and how terrible the Republicans are. I mean, it's obvious that you're going to expect it.
I've actually seen movies, even some movies that similar to what you have brought up, that deal with Black Lives Matter, that deal with a number of other things. You have to remember, I've worked with, among other things, a group that does a whole documentary festival that's very popular here in North Carolina and everything. And there have been some movies that have targeted, as you say, some of the organizations that are more to the left. So I'm not going to say there haven't been movies that haven't covered some of the negative aspects of that. I mean, there have even been movies that cover the negative aspect of the Moral Monday movement and everything. So there have been movies on both sides and all along those lines. So there have definitely been people on both sides that have made movies addressing those concerns and everything. So I'm not going to say that there
I know that Rick and Jacoby probably and Sasha probably have something to say, but I just want to say this. I think, don't put me here by myself. I think that people in America should remember that republicanism in and of itself, take it out of the context of Democrat Republicans, or a Democrat Party and Republican Party. But the concept of republicanism is not a right-wing idea. It's a left-wing idea. The conservatives of the past were after government hierarchies, monarchies, and a rigid structure. You stepped out of line, that was it. You'd be over. The whole foundation of the United States was to put the people first, to make sure that the aristocrats don't just walk away with all the money while everyone else has to labour underneath them. Okay, this was the whole idea. So what do we see today? We see a left-wing group which acts like the way that conservatives used to act like, right? Rigid hierarchy. You step out of line. You don't go with the next thing that they say, trans in the kids or whatever it is that they go for. And if you don't agree, if you dare say something about it, you're going to be crucified for it. Justin Trudeau's one of his threats to the truckers and to the people that were donating money to the truckers was, if we convict you, it will prevent you from being able to travel to other countries, most notably to the country just south of us, the United States. Right, so this sort of heavy-handed, one-way type of thing. We're hearing reports out of the UK that people that put up memes or posts on their social media pages can get arrested and jailed for 12 months. I mean, at what point do people say, look, I'm going to respect the fact that other people have got differing views to me and I want to hear them and see if we can actually get some consensus on some issues? Or is that too radical for everybody?
Well, but Shaquille, along those same lines, because y'all have faced that issue. Elon Musk, that I was going to bring it up on Friday, jumped into this whole argument with Australia because of this notion of social media control and the fact that I guess Australia is trying to tighten the controls around social media. Which
absolutely, and I've said when you first asked me about it, I said exactly the same thing. Whilst I actually agree with the Prime Minister that we should see young people being more active and playing with each other and socialising and all that sort of stuff, that is not the role of the Prime Minister. And I don't know why he thinks that he should use the power of the legislature to parent Australia's children. He's doing an abysmal job of running the country in the first place. How about you just stay out of everyone's lives? We will be okay. Government should be reduced to being a merely administrative body, and instead of us allowing them to take ever-increasing roles in our lives.
Right, so hold on. All right. So to go back to the Kathy Griffin example, she did that more than 7 years ago, and she lost her career because of it. Nobody thinks that was a good idea.
Nobody stopped her, Rick. When she did that, nobody said, "Oh, look, maybe that's going a bit too far."
Yeah, well, it was a huge mistake, and everybody realized it. So, but it was in 2017. I don't notice anybody holding up severed heads now. And when you talk about freedom, the U.S. is the home of X, formerly Twitter, which people can say whatever the fuck they want there. It's a free-for-all at this point. And we're not the UK. We're not. So
it's only a free-for-all because Elon Musk purchased it and made it so that people could express their opinions. But look what's happening around the world. Brazil is trying to shut him down, binding up the Wahoo. Look what's happening with some of the other media entities around the world, right? I mean, it's free speech is under attack worldwide, and it's being done by the globalists, the one world folks that are trying to set the agenda for the rest of us. And that's just wrong. We want our freedom. We want our ability to express our opinions.
We have more free speech now than we ever had before. Everybody has a cell phone from which they can post whatever they want.
Yeah, but we have a White House who has deliberately interfered with free speech. They have.
Let's hear from Steve, because we haven't heard from Steve for a while. The last few times he's come on, he's never had a chance to say anything. So, welcome to the show, Steve.
Hey guys, yeah, I just wanted to come on for a few minutes. I'm not feeling very well today. I'm running a fever, so I'm gonna go get a.
Sorry.
I think I may have.
So you see from here, it looks like you're wearing a Trump shirt, so we just got to be careful about that.
No, I've got a fever, and I feel like I'm having COVID-like symptoms, so I just wanted to jump on. And I'm gonna go get tested real quick, but I think I got it. So I've been.
Have you had it before?
Yeah, twice. So.
Yeah. Hopefully you're right.
But I'm not feeling very well, but I wanted to just come in and say hi. I think the main thing is, Trump's second assassination attempt. That's interesting. We're really seeing a lot of movement here on the Council of State races. Lots of focus on the governor's race. I think everyone at this point thinks Josh Stein will be the next governor of North Carolina. And, the race is pretty close in North Carolina. We don't know how accurate the polls are. I think that the debate was a really quick win, but I don't think it's going to be the decider of the election. I think that I really believe that he made a mistake in his vice presidential choice. I think if it had been Nikki Haley, I think it probably would have been a better choice for Trump. But, and I think his debate performance was disastrous. He is the worst enemy, but we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Hang on. Sorry, Steve. His debate performance was disastrous. So he deliberately held back a little bit. Look, I know the polls show everyone says he lost the debate. I'm one of the very few people that says he doesn't. He didn't, but he held back. He wasn't too aggressive. There were moments when he was. I noticed that Democrats are very quick to say, well, he didn't answer any direct questions. But yet when it comes to Kamala Harris and her not answering the questions, they go, oh, well, it's a debate, so, they don't really go into detail. So it's okay when she doesn't go into detail after a month of dodging the media, but when he doesn't, give a whole heap of answers, a whole heap of detail, well, he's just a liar and this and that. I mean, it's a little bit disingenuous. I really think that Kamala Harris has done herself an enormous amount of damage by not taking the time to properly explain, either in interviews or at the debate, what her actual plan is. She was asked a question about immigration, and her answer was, you should go to one of Donald Trump's rallies because people leave out of boredom and exhaustion. She was asked, what are you planning on doing for the middle class? And her answer was, I'm the only person who is on stage who comes from a middle-class family, and I want to help to lift the middle class. What does that mean? That means nothing. And I will also say, lift the middle class to what? Lift the middle class to rich because you hate them, apparently. So, I think that you'll find that the people are not particularly moved by it. Now, over the weekend, North Carolina the polls will now indicate North Carolina is a toss-up state. I personally don't think North Carolina will flip yet. It may flip at some point. I don't think it's going to flip yet. And I actually still think, I know everybody says, Shaquille, you're crazy for saying it, but I actually still think there's a real possibility of Virginia flipping in this election.
Jatofi?
I'm going to try and address the two quick points that were made. I'll start off with what was just said in terms of not answering questions. Neither did, which is correct. It's a normal debate thing. I don't hold it against Trump for not giving details. What I hold against people for begging for details from Kamala Harris is because Trump doesn't give details and he's been running for 7-8 years. So either way, in that point, neither gave details. It was just how they handled the situation in that debate. Just like any other presidential debate, nobody gives any main details. The only thing that Kamala Harris gave was, we're going to do a $6,000 tax credit, $25,000 for tax credit for homes, and then a $50,000 for businesses. That was what she was running on. Donald Trump didn't really give, in the same vein, gave a gloss over of everything. So it wasn't really that it was heavily detailed. You can't expect that from any debate. But again, the way she handled pivoting and moving, that was much better than the way Donald Trump did, because he became angry. In terms of the violent rhetoric, I don't know why we're going back to Kathy Griffin, who lost her job when she wasn't running for president. Donald Trump is, and right before his assassination attempt, this last one, he did go on tirades about how bad Kamala Harris is in terms of a person, how she's going to take us into World War III, how we're going to have all this nuclear stuff. And he went on this degrading, very angry rhetoric towards anybody who disagrees with him. Kathy Griffin was years ago. She wasn't running for president. The problem is that right now, and this is why I stated when Kamala Harris got into the race and how it has played out so far, she has been the joyful warrior. She hasn't gone down or called Trump a Nazi, hasn't called any of the individuals Nazis or anything else that you're talking about. JD Vance did call Trump Hitler, yet we're not pointing that out, pointing out this whole separation. But again, Trump right now in that has been very hateful towards in his rhetoric towards individuals that are different from him. Even in one of his speeches during that time when Kathy Griffin did do the severed head, Trump even talked about beat the individuals or attack people and I will pay your lawyers' fees. So when we talk about this hateful rhetoric, yes, we have to be honest about it. Yes, it was bad that there were Democrats who did point that out, but the top of the ticket at this moment has yet to do that. The top of the ticket on the Republican side constantly does that and has connected himself with somebody who puts out racist, hateful rhetoric in Laurel Loomer, who's flying on planes with him. So again, if we're going to play the middle, let's play the middle, and let's not ignore what Trump has done, what JD Vance, matter of fact, the mayor of Springfield, the governor of Ohio, they've all talked about it's a direct correlation between when Trump and Vance started pushing out the Haitian immigrant thing. That's when bomb threats started happening, and they have begged that Trump and Vance and anyone else stop that. So again, there is a problem with violent rhetoric, and we cannot absolve Trump for what he's done based just because the assassination attempt has happened.
Hey, Jacoby, just really quickly on that.
I love how that was supposed to be middle of the road, while you
I've got a run, but I'm going to go get to the doctor. But great show, and I think I'll be back on Wednesday, maybe tomorrow evening. And
feel better.
Yeah, feel better.
Get well, buddy.
Before you respond, because I was actually going to give you some fodder for your response, because Jacoby, she did almost the MF word and everything, even though she called herself and everything. So she did almost call Trump that word and everything, because there's been a lot of play around that.
I think that was totally.
So just to point out,
I think that I was going to bring up as well, because apparently Trump does have that tax tip thing for those people that are in work, and I think that's his policy and everything. And there's also the notion of now he's talking about giving money to those to no taxes on overtime, and as one that does overtime hours, I think I might like that idea, but I don't know y'all's thoughts around that.
So well, hang on, that's a change topic. So before I respond to that directly, can I just say this? You know, Jacoby, you're going to say a middle of the road position. Harris needs to differentiate herself from Biden. If what she is saying is that she's a fresh change, a new change, what does she come up with? The child tax credit is $3,000, so I'm going to give you $6,000. Okay, and then she's had the $25,000 payments for new homes. Although apparently California is trying to pass $150,000 for new immigrants to the country, or undocumented immigrants, whatever words you want to use. I mean, it's silly. Now Biden came out and several times said that the biggest threat facing the United States is MAGA Republicans. It's a bigger threat than external terrorism, etc. That's not divisive. We don't think. We don't think that there's going to be some people out there going, "Oh, wow, like it's really bad." I mean, come on now.
Trump legitimately at his rallies just recently has called Democrats, basically troglodytes in a sense. He couldn't use that word because he doesn't have that language on there. But again, he has legitimately gone after Democrats in the same vein that you're talking about. Biden went after MAGA Republicans.
Yeah, because
so I have just pointed out that again, that should not be accepted on either side. But we have to point out that Trump is running for president, and he's saying that. No, don't even say that. Don't say that you guys started it, because that's a lie. That's a lie.
Come on, you've had your bit.
When Trump came down the golden elevator,
escalator,
told everybody that that Mexicans were all that thing. Trump said no. That's what he's on.
So I just want to say, he's not here in a minute. I just want to say this. Trump is pointing out, now you may disagree with him on this point, but he says it's Democrats' poor foreign policy and weakness in the world that has caused the escalation of conflict between Russia and the Ukraine, and has caused the situation between not just Israel and Palestine, but now increasing conflict with Hezbollah, with stuff happening in Lebanon, with a general instability that we're seeing in the Middle East. And he's holding the Democrats responsible for that. Now, I noticed that when George W. Bush and Republicans went into Iraq and did all that sort of stuff, for a decade or more afterwards, Republicans were referred to as being, some of them were referred to as being war criminals. I mean, Henry Kissinger he was in front of some sort of inquiry, and there was protesters saying that he had blood on his hands over something that happened bloody 50 years ago. So what we've seen is Democrats do this, and Republicans do it. All of a sudden, the Republicans are the bad guys. As I said, I'm not going to get involved in who is right and who is wrong. It's politics. Everyone calls each other names. But if we're going to suggest that Donald Trump has somehow brought it upon himself because of his hateful rhetoric, as if Democrats are just floating along, like love and peace, singing Kumbaya, and they've never said anything hateful or hurtful at all. I mean, that's just not true.
Isn't.
Well, I don't know how you can decide the two. I mean, in general, assassins are nuts, and these guys were nuts. The the rooftop shooter from a couple months ago, that guy was Googling everybody looking for a target of opportunity. Trump was the first guy to come within his radius. And
Okay, so he did actually make a donation to ActBlue or to one of the other Democrat things. It wasn't a big donation, but he's been involved in it. This new guy, I'm not going to name the guy, this guy who's an older person, he's not 20, which is a little bit unusual. He has been involved in a heap of left-wing things, and he's made multiple small-dollar donations to ActBlue and other Democrat causes. So the idea that, he's actually a Republican, I can tell you this, neither of them shoot like Republicans. Sasha?
Yes, Sasha, and I want to know why we spend 90% of our time name-calling and 10% looking at real policy. But let's listen to Sasha.
I'll have a look at the policy.
I don't hear anything about policy. All I hear is name calling. 90%.
I would like to mention that back in 2016, Trump became president. He was seen as an outsider of a political scene in Washington, the man who has a vision that is progressive, useful, and so he had 4 years, especially first 2 years. He had presidency, he has Senate, he had House, he had Supreme Court. He had all the tools, whatever the one can only dream of, to implement his vision, his program, his whatever he had. Didn't happen. No, it didn't. As a matter of fact, what's happened is that he lost Senate, he lost House, he lost presidency, he was twice impeached. That's his real track record. Now,
based on false things.
No, I'm telling what everybody is aware of and what is being the history. You can create your own history and work on it, please. Please yourself.
No, Sasha, let's be fair and honest.
No, I'm not trying to be fair. I have no need for.
Why? No. Trump's impeachment, all of Trump's impeachment hearings were based on false information.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I disagree. Okay, you know what?
It's all been debunked.
Have your own saying. You see, you started interrupting me. I don't appreciate that at all. Get your own speech in next 5 minutes and say everything what you want, but without interrupting me, please.
I'm reacting to you, my friend.
Thank you. So now comes 2020, and it's completely different situation. And American people, while they rewarded House, which created the Republican majority, they denied Trump another presidency. So now comes January 6th. Now the man, what he did, he should have been even allowed to get on a ballot. He should have been thrown away from White House as far as it's ever possible. However, he went through again because of the complacency and impotence of the Republican Party. Nobody wanted to go, except Nikki Haley, by the way, nobody wanted to go against Trump. Everybody wanted to have a chance of some opportunities, maybe in cabinet, maybe in some other position in Trump, if Trump would win eventually. Plus, Trump was capable fundraiser, so they decided, okay, let the guy do the work, let him raise money. Why don't we do just that? So they were absolute impotent and actually wimps by allowing Trump to get on the ballot. Okay, they got it. Now, for several months, American people, 70% of them, voiced an opinion that we don't want these two 80-year-olds fighting for presidency. Neither one, neither another one. So eventually, Democrats listened to that. And they...
Oh, Sasha, come on.
Oh, you're so
Come on, stop it. I'm talking now. No, listen, let's stop it. I'm not interrupting anybody, and I'm demanding not to be interrupted, okay? That's all what you can do? Do it some other time, not while I'm talking.
No, I can say lots if I want to. So
okay, enough of it. I can interrupt you just as well. So what's happened is that Democrats replaced Biden. So now there is much younger and much more energetic woman, Kamala Harris. And here is the old, impotent man, a criminal convict, felon, who is fighting for president. This is the most ridiculous situation that I've ever seen in any country, not just in U.S. However, you know what? Yesterday I was invited on one party. There were several different discussions. One of them was about presidency. And you know what? At the end of the day, we came to the conclusion, because we in Canada, of course, so no one can vote, and we came to the conclusion that it's up to American people to decide who is the best president. I'm open to any suggestion. Actually, I'm even curious. I know that Trump is not the ideal candidate, but you know what? I have no problem with him being elected, because I want to see how he will implement that he will make a peace between Russia and Ukraine in 24 hours or 3 months or even 5 years. I'm curious to see how he's going to do it. He claims that he has special relationship with Putin and Zelensky, and he's going to call one guy, then another guy, and then somehow there will be a peace. I'm really curious to see how it's going to happen. I'm not sure.
Well, as the other person here that's not American, I can tell you that I have more faith in Trump in resolving some of the world conflicts than Kamala Harris. But I just want to say a couple of things. One, you said that he shouldn't have even been on the ballot. At the end, you said, well, it should be up to the American people. Well, that's what I would say. It should be up to the American people, right? It shouldn't be up to a political system to determine who should and shouldn't be on the ballot. Second, how is it that 70% of Americans didn't want either of those two candidates, but also 70% of Americans disapproved of Kamala Harris? And overnight, Kamala Harris is amazing. She's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I mean, this is after we've heard all the like his inauguration speech was the greatest speech of any presidential speech that has ever occurred. And one of the nitwits on TV that says, "Oh, you're looking at the reflection of the water," and he goes, "Oh, it's like Joe Biden's arms reaching out to give America a hug." I mean, come on, it couldn't get much more cringe than that. But the real question I've got for you, Sasha, do you really believe? Is it really your statement that the Democrats just sat back, looked at the polls, and said, you know, people are saying that they don't want either of these two candidates. So I think Biden should, maybe Biden should step aside. Then Biden just out of the kindness of his heart, because he loves America so much, just said, oh, look, it's nothing to do with the fact that I've completely screwed up that debate. It's nothing to do with the fact that the media can't cover for me anymore. Nothing to do with the fact that the polls are now showing that I've got a 75 or 80% chance of losing. That played no part in it at all. It wasn't because they had no choice but to get rid of him. It was because they were so nice that they finally listened to the people.
Of course, it played its role. Of course, he's hopelessly lost the debate against Trump. And all that showed that not only he's incapable to win presidency against Trump, he may not even last until the end of his term in February 2025. So he was replaced then quite forcefully.
Right.
And again,
Sasha, that's my point. And that's the point that I keep bringing up with delusional, lying Democrats, right? And that's what they are. They're either delusional or they're lying to it.
Well, I think
because when people have pointed out over the last several years that Biden's been faltering, there's always been an excuse. Oh, yeah, the wind pushed him up the stairs 3 times. I mean, nobody's taking that seriously. Oh, no, he didn't get lost. There was a problem with the teleprompter. There was a problem. You're just a conspiracy theorist. You're lying. Oh, you know what it is? If you're criticizing Biden, it must be because you don't like Harris, and so therefore you're a racist. And these are all the things that they've thrown at us until it got to a point on that debate where they had no choice but to admit it. Biden shouldn't have been the nominee in the first place. But what did the Democrats do? They wouldn't even let anybody else run, knowing the whole time they've known what condition Biden was in. They've known it. So how is anybody really supposed to trust the Democrats right now? Some people will. A third of the country is going to vote for them no matter what they do. But I think as far as trustworthiness, if people are going to complain that Trump is lying and exaggerating and carrying on all the time, that's fine. But you have to also acknowledge that people have no reason whatsoever to trust the Democrats. And if you are, I would suggest, a normal person like the majority of the polls will show, Tim Walz, the jolly, good old fun Tim Walz, passes a law in Minnesota, apparently, that says that if you're a young person in a neighbouring state, and your parents won't give you gender-affirming care. And what do we mean by gender-affirming care? Well, we're talking about getting a teenage daughter, all right, giving her a double mastectomy, removing her breasts, and then putting her on cross-gender hormones that are going to sterilise her so she can no longer have children. And what has the jolly country folk Tim Walz done? He's passed a law that says that that child can come to Minnesota, apply for a judge. A judge will then take over custody of that child so that that child can go through those procedures without their parents' knowledge, without their parents' consent, without their parents having any contact with that kid, using state Medicaid money. I think it exists within the realm of possibilities that there could be some parents out there that have a problem with that, and they don't trust the Democrats to run the country, let alone to run their lives and their families' lives.
Well, I got a quick question for Dan. Before I get to that, Rick had a question. Rick had a statement. I know you had one too, Sasha. Rick, you said something. Oh, you had your hand up earlier.
Yeah, so I think the science is changing on puberty blockers, where it seemed like a good idea if a kid was potentially trans and wanted to delay things to. But I think now there's evidence showing that we thought puberty blockers, science thought, doctors, that it was harmless. If it's turning out that the puberty blockers cause irrevocable changes, then yeah, then policy has to change and has been changing. And as far as giving mastectomies to people under 18, it's bad if they do it. And I believe that responsible hospitals and doctors are refusing to do that. And there are probably a few idiots who are still doing it, but I feel like, people are trying to be responsible with gender affirming care. And
John Hopkins University, one of the spokes,
right,
he came out and she's talking about removing the uterus and all this sort of stuff. Let me just say a couple of things. You said it sounded like a good idea at the time. No, a lot of people, in fact, the majority of people opposed it. But what happened? They were treated brutally. They were cancelled. They were told they were transphobes. They were told they were hateful people, etc., etc. Okay, so lots of people had issues with this. I've been saying for a long time that probably we should just let parents have the ultimate say here. Those parents that actually think it's a good idea, maybe we should get out of the way. But I also want to remind you that Dr. Money, he did that test on those two twin boys. It didn't work. The kid in question ended up ending it early. Taking his own life. Every time it's been tried, it's been a complete failure. And then when they started trying it again, what they did was they made sure that no studies could be conducted to show that this could be problematic. Only studies that could be conducted to show that it could work were allowed to be funded. They've twisted the science, just like they've done with climate change. And anybody who says anything about it gets shot down. And the party that aligns itself with those sorts of values, with using government force, is the party that says that they're Democrats, that they represent the people. They don't. What they're trying to do, like the Labor Party here, is they are trying to force their policies upon people by acting as though they have a mandate when they win elections that they simply do not have.
But Shaquille, the pharmacy industry, which is not a democratic industry, I would argue, and the cigarette industry and the wine industry and a number of others have twisted studies as well. So I'm not going to give the twisting studies to just one party and everything. Hold on a second, because I have a question.
You think the pharmaceutical industry is one of the Republican
that I might be bringing on the show later and everything. So I was just curious because, and Sasha may have some thoughts around this as well, because one of the guests that I've reached out to is a gentleman that was a former FBI person. I think he's a Republican and everything. Don't ask me that, but just based on the way he wrote the issues, is that he thinks that there are people that are in the government, including former President Obama, and I know people have made this accusation about Trump, that are assets for our foreign adversaries. So I was just wondering, Dan, is that a legitimate concern? Because I forgot the gentleman's name, but I did send him an invite after I learned about him, because he made that accusation about Obama, saying that Obama had a different name. I think it was Barry something, and that it was a asset for the Russians. And I've heard that same accusation around Trump. So is this a legitimate concern that people need to have? And I will be inviting him later on, and he can speak his own.
Well, I mean, Biden is a Chinese asset, taken money through his family fund. Ukrainian money. I mean, the flow of money to the Biden family has been ongoing. Corruption on the part of the Biden family is well documented, and nobody seems to want to do anything about it. I don't know. I mean, there's so much about Obama that was withheld from the public before the election, so no one really understood his back history. Had they known, they would have been appalled by him, especially some of the stories that are coming out of Chicago and his illicit affairs and other kinds of things that were going on. So, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, sure, it's a serious problem if political power holders are being influenced by foreign powers, particularly our enemies, and something should be done about it. I don't know. I mean, I know the allegations about Trump. Nothing's been proven. In fact, we've gone through some impeachment hearings and that kind of thing. Most of that stuff's been debunked, despite what Toby said and what Sasha said. The Russian disinformation ended up being CIA disinformation, and the laptop was absolutely accurate. And, not even Sasha can deny that. So, so he got impeached based on false information, got impeached based on a conversation with Zelensky or whoever was in charge over there at the time, that wasn't what it was, when in fact the Bidens were the ones that were corrupt and trying to influence politics and administration in Ukraine, and took money. So absolute corruption is wrong in politics, no matter who it is. Something needs to be done about it, but nothing will be. I mean, we've seen what the Bidens have gotten away with, and he's going to ride off into the sunset without being prosecuted. Trump won't go after him, just like he didn't go after Clinton.
When you mean right off to the sunset, he's already on Delaware Beach. He hasn't moved.
Yeah, I know. He really hasn't been in the White House that much. He's been on permanent vacation. So,
Rick, you had a question or so?
You mentioned all these allegations against Obama and Biden as if they've been conclusively proven, yet no, they haven't been. And you mentioned the allegations against Trump. I mean, if you want to make a balanced argument, you can say that there have been allegations against every recent president. You didn't even mention the allegations that Trump took a $10 million bribe from the government of Egypt in the weeks before the 2016 election, and that's been being investigated for years. But
you make my point, really, Rick. I mean, look at Waltz. He's tied to the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, look at the astronaut from Arizona. Same thing. He runs a balloon company.
What about Eric Swalwell over in California?
Let's talk about Swalwell. 8 years ago, he had this campaign worker working in his office who the FBI found out was a Chinese spy.
He was more than a campaign worker.
Wasn't he having an affair with her or something?
They say he was, but I don't know. He wasn't married at the time.
But this is the same guy that on September 11 starts having a crack at the GOP judiciary chair or whatever it is, judicial committee chair or whatever, for a meme that he put up. With Donald Trump holding cats and beef or whatever it was. But you know what? When it comes to misinformation, why exactly do the mainstream media and the Democrats keep on with this line that Donald Trump said there were fine people on both sides? Like, anybody who watches it will know that he specifically admonished the white supremacists and the white nationalists. Why are they acting like that's the opposite of what he did? I don't get it, especially when it's so obvious. Every major fact-checking, especially left-wing fact-checking places, they've all called it out as being misinformation. So, what's the point of this?
This whole
all that does is breed mistrust.
Whole hour, you've been bringing up old news. Kathy Griffin, 7 years ago. Swalwell, 8 years ago. immediately cut ties, worked with the FBI to make sure that no damage had been done. And then this.
You guys are talking about E.G. Carroll that was like 40 years ago.
What?
You guys are making reference to E.G. Carroll, whose accusations against him are from like, what, 30 years or 40 years ago or something.
Yeah, fine, but she took it to trial now because Trump kept alleges and proved.
Okay, and Trump's just been attempted to be assassinated twice in the last couple of months.
Recent. Let's talk about the dog eating stuff, which hasn't even come up so far in today's discussion.
Well,
we're going to get to economics
tomorrow because we got economics right now and everything. But it's been another lively discussion. We'll hopefully have another one tomorrow as well. But we'll get ready to get out of here, and Economics Monday is getting ready to go on now as well.